If you want to be a true cult fan, then this is the video for you.
Clowns. Send in the clowns.
Today, we begin our ranking of black metal albums from 2024, and I'm totally sure no overly sensitive dweebs are going to get upset about it. But let's kick things off with Borknagar with Fall. This Norwegian progressive black metal band back for their 12th album since forming during the second wave all the way back in the 90s. This may have some of Vortex's best performances of all time in an already impressive career, I would say. Really stunning production too, once more really capturing the chill air and every impact of the drums. Top 3 for them if you ask me. Check out the discography tier list for more thoughts. It is going to perfection. Next up we have Funeral Winds with 333. The return of this black metal band also formed in the early 90s after dropping Stigmata Mali just last year. Pretty standard, culty black metal, both written and produced as if that era never ended. I commend the project for perfectly nailing that sound in the 2020s, but I'm just not one that's all about just recycling old tradition. There are other albums on this list that I think do that better, so this one went to okay. Next up is Nocturnal Sorcery with Captive in the Breath of Life. This Finnish black metal band formed in 2011, but took 11 years to release their debut full-length in 2022, and this is another case where, from the composition to the production, someone could have easily fooled me into believing this was, in fact, from the early era, but it's just executed so well. It's dark, raw, and cavernous, like a diabolical energy emerging from the depths. It landed at amazing. Love that cover art, too. Next up is Inquisition with Veneration of Medieval Mysticism and Cosmological Violence. This 9th record continues to surprise me with at times a more laid-back blackgazy aesthetic alongside Dagon's usual sermonizing croaks. It kind of feels like they took obscene verses for the multiverse but scaled back the satanic aggression in favor of a little bit more Drudka and Burtsum. It's a pretty strange and often dreamlike juxtaposition, and while it doesn't always work, I still find myself fairly engrossed in it. I'm putting it at a great tier. Then we have Dead Earth with Et Disperdam Illud. This is the new solo project of Mathia Camijo of 90s Swedish black metal band Algeon. The album is very atmospherically focused as opposed to feeling particularly riff-driven. Lots of plodding, doomy guitars and frosty, twinkling synths. The main words that come to mind are mournful and miserable, with only the occasional glimmers of light. If that appeals to you, you're gonna love it. Personally, I found it to be a little bit on the dull side, so I put it at okay. Next up is Malist with Of Scorched Earth. The 5th LP from this atmospheric, riff-driven one-man black metal project from Moscow, Russia. This is icy traditionalism mixed with more modern black gaze sounds, loaded with melodic tremolo lines that honestly gave me a chill just listening. Compositions are on the longer side, but do a good job of changing things up, shifting tone, and bringing acoustic guitars to keep things interesting. I put this one at good. And we have Necrowretch with Swords of Dajjal. Now, I could see an argument for this belonging in the death metal tier list given their history over the last 15 years, but I'd argue that from the wretched vocals to the more ominous guitar melodies and twisted tremolo lines, this album fits way more on the black metal end of the spectrum. It's way more dissection than Morbid Angel. Really strong performances and production, but the songwriting struck me as pretty forgettable in terms of like retreading already overly trodden ideas. So I know a lot of people seem to love this one. I thought it was kind of middle of the road, so I put it at great tier. And we got Hauntologist with Hollow. Made up of the busy dark side of Magua and the Fall of Owls, Woods, Graves, this album is several years in the making. Great dark atmosphere mixing heavy black metal elements with some post-metal tones as well. Very dynamic listen with plenty of ups and downs, maybe a little long-winded and at times meandering for my taste, but when it hits on tracks like Death Dreamer, it hits hard. I can see why a lot of people recommended this album to me. I put it at amazing. Then we have Hoplite, or I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the album name. But this is album number 4 for this one-man Chinese black metal crew. Already excited to get more Asian countries in the mix, as they often bring something completely different to the game. I don't know what I was expecting, but this shares an unpredictability that I love so much about bands like Psy. Maybe chaotic to a fault at times, but wholly original and unlike anything else on this particular list. I kind of toyed with fantastic or perfection, but I think ultimately I am going to put it at perfection. Then we have Vemod with The Deepening. The second LP from this Norwegian atmospheric black metal band formed in 1999 by a then just 12-year-old Jan Even. Recommended to fans of Luster, Alcest, Ultra Plagues, Panopticon, and Agalok. There are certain bands that are able to work that style for me, but this one tests my patience at times with all the repetition. Bigger fans of this subgenre in my audience seem to love it though. I ended up putting it at good. Next up is Volcandra with The Way of Ancients. The second album from this Kentucky-based project that fuses a number of styles, but I'd say swings most heavily into black metal with their icy atmosphere. Expect a mix of black and death metal vocals alongside a lot of melodic riffing and harmonizing for a pretty epic and sometimes folky energy, and I feel like it's becoming a meme for me to bring up Dissection at this point, but it's just not my fault that so many bands happen to be inspired by their sound in one way or another. Not my favorite album on this list by any means, but a really rock-solid one. I put it at great. Next up we have Ad Mortem with In Honorem Mortis. The debut from this German black metal band packed with energetic beats and cascading waterfalls of mournful melodic guitar tremolos. Once more, this is nothing I haven't heard 1,000 times before, but the execution is mostly spot on and songs definitely carry me and, in a strange way, even lift my spirits. Tracks can linger on in repetition a few minutes too long at times, but overall this is a strong recommendation to traditionalist black metal fans. Put it at amazing. Then we have Profane Burial with My Plateau. This Norwegian symphonic black metal band sounds like what you get if you combined Karish Angren's orchestrations and Grutel's vocals from Enslaved with the more dissonant guitar sounds of Krallis. Lots of great moments, but as a start-to-finish listen, I found myself frequently having bouts of boredom in between, largely due to the kind of directionless-sounding guitars. Definitely there's potential here, but I just put it at okay. Then we have Hulder with Verses in Oath. Now, I'm still not really understanding what the sudden hype around this album was back in February, but it seemed like out of nowhere I saw everyone talking about it in the week up to release. And yeah, it's fine. Like, solid atmosphere with spooky synths and capturing that second wave essence from the vocals to the production. Kind of a case where I actually think I might have enjoyed it more if I hadn't gone in with such high expectations from all that hype, but ended up putting it at a great tier. Then we have Lvme with Of Sinful Nature. Album 2 from this international black metal crew, and I am loving the atmosphere. 5 relatively lengthy but deeply rewarding tracks to leave you drifting into the void in a similar vein as Ascension, Bluthaus Nord, and Deathspell Omega. Haunting stuff that's great to put on and give in to its dark vibes. I put it at fantastic. Then we have Midnight with Hellish Expectations. Now, this is the album I've been wanting this Cleveland blackened speed metal band to make since the very beginning. In my opinion, their strength has always been that Venom-esque, straight-for-the-throat energy, and this is that shaved down to the bone. 10 tracks, all under 3 minutes, and for a seriously lean runtime of 26 minutes, and not a second of it is wasted on anything less than Full Speed Ahead, Motorcycle Exhaust, and Blasphemy, putting it at perfection. Next up is Devastation with Rise of the Dead. The third full-length album from this Belgian blackened thrash and speed metal band, emphasis on the black metal. There's no denying the influences of the likes of Venom and Motorhead on some of these riffs, but generally this has me thinking way more about, again, Dissection, and also Dimmu Borgir's heavier moments. Regardless, this is a ripper of a record full of jangly, arthritis-inducing, tremolo-picking, imposing vocals, and rollicking D-beats, landing them at fantastic. Next up is Darkspace with Darkspace 2. Despite this Swiss atmospheric black metal band kicking around since 1999 with plenty of hype from my fellow reviewers, I've just never really been fully able to get into them. There's an emphasis on slowly building ambience that, while well crafted, leaves me feeling antsy for something to happen. I feel like Bluthaus Nord are just superior when it comes to melding similar elements from black metal to industrial into something that feels just more engagingly paced for, again, me personally. But I ended up putting it at good, too. Then we have Alkhemia with Abraxas. This French black metal band came recommended for fans of Magua, Groza, and Nagelfar, and thematically combines the allegory of the two wolves and George Orwell's 1984. Musically, I don't find it particularly interesting, pretty dime a dozen black metal with generic tremolo melodies and not a whole lot else. Those newer to the genre may enjoy it, but I'm just not sure what long-time listeners will find here that they haven't heard, again, a billion times before, so this one went to okay. Then we have Darkestra with Nomad. This is the 7th album from this epic shamanic black metal crew, and with its incorporation of flute, jaw harp, and strings, I'd most closely compare their sound to Moon Sorrow mixed with a bit of Heilung. The atmosphere is massive and all-encompassing, though I do find myself wishing the guitars were a bit more interesting and the compositions a little bit more varied, but it's still got them a spot at amazing. We have Rotting Christ with Pro Christoi. The Greeks back after 5 years away with their 14th album, and definitely coming in a similar vein as the Heretics. Lots of emphasis on atmosphere that especially wowed me in the second half, though I do find the first to be a little bit more kind of rinse and repeat. Sorcery may actually be the best closer of their career. I put this one at... Wow, I actually just realized I fucked this up a little bit. I forgot that I had gotten rid of OK tier, so bear with me. Yeah, we had a killer tier, so... Hold your horses. There we go. It is. Rotting Christ is going to killer tier. Nobody saw that, ever. Next up, we have ACOD with Versets Noir. I've enjoyed the previous albums from this French band. This now their 6th since forming in the 2000s. Initially, I was pretty sucked in by the usual atmosphere, especially with the additional symphonic backing elements, but unfortunately, as the opening 20-plus minute track progresses into maybe the final third, already I started to feel it drag. So yeah, I got a little bit bored after a while. It's going to okay. Next up is Mutilation with Black Metal Cult. The 7th album from this French band that has been putting out material for 30 years at this point points for arguably the most gnarly vocals on this list and a spiraling vortex of noisy guitars and drums, seemingly focused on being as loud and off-putting as possible. On the flip side, songs drag on way too long once more. Shorter would serve them a lot better. Once your ears adjust to it, just starts to get kind of tedious after a while. It didn't quite land at the bottom, though. I put it at good. Then we have Granitada with Der Wald zwischen den Welten. Translating from German to The Force Between Worlds, this debut album takes us on a very dreamlike drift to another plane. It feels like it sits right at the border of traditional atmospheric black metal with more modern post-black and black gaze sensibilities. With elements of both Inquisition's last album as well as things like Oathbreaker and Harakiri for the Sky, one of the prettier albums on this list without losing track of tradition and grimness. So I'm putting this one at amazing. And then we're closing out part 1 with Ishan with Ishan. The multi-talented man behind Emperor comes full circle here, with this being the most symphonically focused album he's probably ever done. We're talking full orchestra and even an alternate orchestra-only version alongside his eclectic melding of black metal and progressive music. Easily one of his most ambitious and massive-sounding records to date, and my second favorite of his solo works, just behind Arctis. This one is going to perfection. Y'all stick around and subscribe for part 2, because that'll be coming relatively soon, I think. Check out this playlist for more black metal related rankings and videos, or this video for whatever YouTube wants to recommend you personally. But that'll do it for now. Don't take yourself so seriously, and I will see you in the trenches.